How many times do you let fear prevent you from taking action when your heart, mind, or soul tells you to do something? Hello, this is Joanne Francis, and this morning I share this message of organic divinity with you in hopes that it will empower you to take action even though fear is taking over and telling you to do nothing. It comes from a story that someone shared with me about a service member coming to the aid of an eagle that was trapped or rather was tangled up in a live wire, was tangled up in a branch. And no one was willing in this town to do anything to try to save the eagle because there were some liability issues at play. And it was the fear of someone being held liable that they were able to actually walk away and leave this animal, whether it was an eagle or anything else. They were willing to let this living, breathing animal die a slow death because they were so fearful of having any liability issues take over. And it's that we must learn to overcome, not simply overnight, but by understanding that you have the power within you to follow what your heart is telling you, what your mind is telling you, or what your soul is telling you, simply by taking some type of action. You see, in this wild, crazy, chaotic world that we now live in, that we all share, that we are all being held responsible for, we have been trained and conditioned to understand and believe that we are to do nothing and take no action if for some reason we are to be held liable. I'm not sure about the way it is in many countries across this globe. I speak from the experience of being born and raised in the United States. And it is such a litigious society that we now live in this country, this overly capitalistic world where we hold our own selves in a higher power than we do anyone else, let alone anything else. And as I contemplate how it is that this town of people that has a governing agency, that has a full-blown government, that they were okay to allow this particular eagle, this animal, to die a slow death instead of trying to figure out a way to help that creature, that animal, that living, breathing animal in some way. And so it took a serviceman who, with his own ammunition and his own skills, he took about action to take care of this eagle. And he simply thought the best plan of attack, the best solution rather, was to, using his gun, was to try to shoot away and allow that branch to fall so that he could hopefully save that eagle. And that's what he set out to do. Did he allow the fear of the animal suffering further if it fell on the ground? No, because he knew that the best course of action to save the animal was indeed to try to free the animal from that branch. And the only way to do that was to indeed try to take the branch down. It's disheartening in many ways to recognize the fallibility of the human species as they feel that they are not responsible for all of the animals and the creatures on this earth. But this military serviceman, a veteran military serviceman, knew that he had to take action. And that is the epitome of the people that serve in our militaries, whether it be in this country or any other country, is simply the fact that they must take action. And they do not let fear stop them from doing so. And while this entire town of people, including this serviceman's family and friends, told him not to do it, it was probably dead, he found this bird, he checked it out, it was still alive, and he knew he had to take action. And that's what he did. And after many attempts, after taking many shots, evidently reportedly over 150, one of the bullets finally took out the limb, and the limb and the bird were taken to safety. The bird was alive, and it was able to be taken to a rescue, and it was able to survive and be released back into the wild. It's this moment that you must understand, that when your heart, mind, or soul is telling you to take action, that you take that moment to recognize that you have an opportunity in front of you to do something, whether it be for your fellow man, whether it be for an animal. It's time to take action. And when you do, when you take action, you will be protected, because that is what our universe needs right now. You have a choice. When you see something that needs to be taken care of, or that you know you could do something to come to the aid of a person or animal or anything across this world, you have that golden opportunity to take action, to stop and consider what action you're able to take. But you see, we've been trained and conditioned to just take fear and allow fear, rather, to take over. And it prevents us from even seeing the opportunity that could be there. And in this particular case, I consider the people of this town, as they watched that bird dying a slow death, dangling from this tree, that they just allowed fear to take over. How did anyone out of this town of who knows how many people not stop and think that there would be some way to take that branch down? But you see, that's what fear does to you. It stops you from seeing the opportunities and for thinking of the solutions to the problem at hand. Fear is false evidence appearing real. That is the acronym that sticks with me, that I learned 40 years ago. That fear is simply false evidence appearing real. And in this particular case, as the people recognized that that bird was stuck, that they just decided that it was dead, they allowed fear to present false evidence. They just decided that it was dead, because that way they wouldn't have to address it or do anything about it. False evidence appearing real. And when you allow fear to take over, you are stopping and preventing yourself from doing the good work that our world needs right now. And as I record this, and as I consider what it is I am saying to you, I think of the many ways that people have prevented themselves from being kind and showing empathy and having compassion for individuals in this world. And it's simply as walking by a person who might be begging for money, who might be at the stoplight, trolling that stoplight up and down, hoping that people will give them money, because we have been taught that they take that money to buy alcohol or drugs. And that is absolutely false evidence appearing real. Is it possible that that is the case? Yes. But who are you to stand in judgment of that human being and allow fear, the fear that you are going to somehow aid them in their own destruction, if you will? How are you to stand there in judgment and allow the fear of your own safe, or your own self rather, and you don't want to give them anything? Consider what it is I am saying to you today. Consider that you have the power within you to come to the aid of those around you. But you must understand that fear is preventing you from doing so. And when you recognize that you are stopping yourself and you are shutting your own heart down and you are not allowing the compassion and the empathy that this world needs right now, when you are stopping that, you are stopping and preventing yourself from living your own beautiful, most powerful self in the meantime. We say every day that we want to have the best day possible, that we want to be open and available, and we want to do good for one another. But we allow fear to prevent that. And these are just a couple of examples that I want you to consider, so that you allow yourself to come to the aid of those who need it at the moment that it is presented to you. Whether it be the turtle crossing the road and you turn around and stop to make sure that it gets across, or that you allow yourself to give that person that's begging for money some money for whatever, for food, for them, for their family. Because you see, you've been trained and conditioned to do the opposite, because that is how this disempowering sense of negative energy takes over your own heart, mind, and soul. And when you understand some of these simple principles, that you are in control and that you will always be protected if you follow your heart, mind, and soul, because they are going to be in alignment, you see. You must align what your heart, mind, and soul is telling you. And when you do, you become this full spirited self. Do not let the word spirited prevent you from going further with what it is I am saying, because we want to be a full spirited self, because that is when we are at our core sense of well-being, that our sense of well-being is resonating to our core, so that when we go out in the world, we are now open to be empowering of ourselves and to empower those that need it most. The person at work that drives you crazy, the person at work or at play on the ball field that is pushy and not happy, or is rude, or just isn't a pleasant person. Push yourself further to understand that it is your own fear of what they may say in return that prevents you from reaching out to them from one human being to another. Fear is real, but it is false evidence that appears real. Do you understand? You have the power within you to take a hold of whatever the situation is and see it for what it is, and open yourself to come to the aid of those that need it most. How do you think all of these servicemen and women do what they do? Because they take action instead of letting fear take over. So as you go through your day today, I want you to consider the times in the past where you have allowed fear to prevent you from doing something that your heart, mind, and or soul, all three of them, if you will, was pinging you to tell you to do something. I'm guilty of it. We are human, and we must learn that we can accept the fact that although we have been trained to consider this, that we must overcome that training and reformat ourselves so that we now become that open, empowering person that can lift the world, lift the spirit of the world, one small action at a time. Thank you.